In this video, I am going to teach you how to pass a second interview. So if you've been invited along for a second interview, it's really good news, but you still have to prepare fully for it. Now, to help you pass your second interview, I am going to cover a number of things during this tutorial. The first thing is I will answer some of the more common questions that people ask about second interviews. I will then give you some really important second interview tips to help you succeed. And finally, I will give you a number of second interview questions that I strongly recommend you prepare for. So if you have a second interview coming up, make sure you stay tuned because I promise to help you succeed. Let's start off and let's answer some of the more common questions people ask about second interviews. So the first question that I want to answer about second interviews is, does being invited along for a second interview automatically mean I am going to get the job? And the answer to that question is no. A second interview is not a formality. You still have to prepare really well for a second interview. And I suggest that you put in just as much effort into your preparation for the second interview as you did for the first interview. Now, I will often invite people along for a second interview because I want to double check that they are the right person for the job. So you still need to make sure that you dress smart. You still need to act professionally, and you still need to impress the interviewer. Now, you should also be aware that there might be another person at the second interview who wasn't at the first interview. And that sometimes happens because the interviewer wants to get a second opinion. So you need to impress the second person who might turn up to your second interview. So don't treat your second interview as a formality because it is not. You still need to impress the interviewer. So the second question that I want to answer during this tutorial about second interviews is, what questions am I going to get asked during my second interview? Well, with me today, I've brought along the exact questions that I always ask candidates during their second interview. So let me start working through these with you, and you can then start to prepare answers for them. So the first one is, what strengths can you bring to this position? So when I ask that question during the second interview, I am specifically looking for strengths that are aligned to the job description. So make sure you read the job description again before you go along to the second interview, and you consider the different strengths you have that you can bring to the role. The second question that I always ask during second interviews is, describe yourself in 3 words. Now that's a very tricky question because it puts you on the spot. How do you describe yourself in 3 words? Now, whenever you answer this difficult second interview question, you should think about the different words that describe you that make you stand out from the other candidates. I recommend you say that you are commercially aware. This is a great word to use when describing yourself. Being commercially aware means that you fully understand that in order for their business to be successful, you need to carry out your duties to a very high standard. Another good word to use when describing yourself during a second interview is to say that you are loyal and trustworthy. Okay, so I want to employ somebody who is loyal to my company and they are going to stay working for me for a number of years into the future. And another good word to describe yourself during a second interview is that you are evolving. You are always looking to improve and develop. So those are 3 really good words that you can use when describing yourself during an interview. And in particular, when answering that second interview question, describe yourself in 3 words. The next second interview question that I recommend you prepare for is, what's the first thing you will do in this role if I decide to hire you? Now, sometimes the interviewer will ask it in a different way. They might say to you, what will you do within the first 30 days of starting in this role? So if they ask you this second interview question, make sure you demonstrate that you already have a plan in place of what you are going to do when you start work. Now, the type of answer that I want to hear from a candidate during a second interview is that they will first of all sit down with me, their manager, and they will obtain a brief of what I want them to do. They will then introduce themselves to the team. They will then find out how they can start collaborating with other people within the team or within the organisation, and they will also more importantly, do something of significance within a role within 30 days to show that they are the right person for this position. So make sure you have a plan in place of what you are going to do within the first 30 days of starting in the role. Now, the next interview question that I recommend you prepare for your second interview is, what type of work environment do you prefer? Now, my advice when you answer this question is to say that you want to work in an environment that is dynamic, that is forward-thinking, and that where you get to collaborate with other people to help achieve the organisation's commercial and financial objectives. So I want to hear you say in your second interview that you want to work in a fast-paced environment where people are all working together to achieve the company's goals. The next question you need to prepare for is, what are your career aspirations? So my advice when you answer this second interview question is that you say, first of all, you are looking to stay working for their organisation for a long period of time. You are looking for stable employment with their company. Because this then means if I am investing in you, I'm going to get a good return on my investment. You should also say, when answering that question, what are your career aspirations, that you are looking for a job where you can develop in the role and you can also learn new skills as the years go by. But I would also want to hear that you are potentially looking to advance in the organisation. I want to hear a level of enthusiasm from you that shows that you are going to be a high-performing employee and you are going to help me and my business to progress. Now, the next second interview question that is highly likely to come up during your second interview is, what salary would you expect for this role, or what are your salary expectations? So this is a very difficult interview question to answer. If they are asking you the salary question, then there is a strong possibility you will be getting hired for this role. But we don't want to ask for an amount that is either out of their range or that is not a match for your skills, qualities and your experience. Now, my advice when you answer the question, what salary would you expect for this position, is to show that you've carried out some research. So I would be saying, prior to attending this interview, I carried out some research into the average salary range for this position. And the average salary range is between $29,000 and $39,000. Now, I need to prove to you my worth because you don't know me. Even though I believe I'm worth the higher end of that salary range of $39,000, I need to prove to you my worth, so I would be comfortable with a salary range of $35,000. So that shows that you are prepared for that question. What are your salary expectations? You've carried out some research. You are not going for the very high end of the salary range. You are coming down a little bit because you are saying to the interviewer that you understand that you need to prove to them your worth. And that's a very clever way of answering that common second interview question. Now, there is one interview question that I can pretty much guarantee is going to come up during your second interview, and that is there anything you would like to say to convince us to hire you? What do you say to that common second interview question? You need to say something that makes you stand out. So I would be saying the fact that the skills, the qualities and the experience I have is a strong match for the job description, and that means that I can come into the role, I will learn the position quickly, and I will be able to make a fast and immediate impact that helps their organisation to continue and grow. I would also say that I have personal goals outside of work, and the only way that I will achieve those goals is if I do a brilliant job for my employer. I would also say that I am a passionate and driven person who wants to do a really good job at work, because we spend lots of time at work, and therefore the time that I do spend at work, I want that to be put to good use. So I would be passionate in my answer to that question. Is there anything you would like to say that might convince us to hire you? So once your second interview comes to the end, they're going to say to you, do you have any questions for us? Now, my advice is to ask a couple of smart questions that are focused on helping their organisation to improve. So you could say, what challenges are the organisation facing right now, and how could I help you in this role to overcome them? That's a really smart question. You could also ask another question that is as follows. What advice would you give to the successful candidate who wants to do a really good job in this role? So you are trying to tap in there to their experience. So those are two really good questions that you can ask at the end of your second interview. Now, I have more interview questions that I want you to prepare for your second interview. So make sure you click that link right now in the top left-hand corner of this video, and you can go through to my website where you can check out that full list of second interview questions that I strongly recommend you prepare for, and you can also download a copy of the answers. Let me now go into some really important second interview tips that I believe are going to make a massive difference to your performance during your second interview. Now, in this next stage of the presentation, I want to give you some really important second interview tips that are going to make a big difference to your performance on the day. Now, the first tip is to make sure that you are positive and enthusiastic about the job that you are applying for. You need to be really enthusiastic about the position. And this should come across in how you answer the interview questions, how you communicate with the interviewer, and also the level of tone that you use when answering the questions. Make sure you smile, have really good body language, and try and build a rapport with the interviewer. So make sure that you are positive about the role and you are enthusiastic to get started. The second interview tip that I want to give you to help you pass your second interview is to make sure that you are fully professional. There is a tendency with candidates who go along for a second interview to relax a little bit because they think they are going to get the job. But as I said at the start of this presentation, it's not a formality, it's not a foregone conclusion. So make sure that you are just as professional as you were for the first interview, and make sure that you dress to impress. It's really important. You can wear the same outfit for the second interview as you did for the first if you want to, but make sure it is smart. Dress up for the interview. Make sure you look the part, because that tells me that you are a person who cares and you also have very high standards. Now, the next second interview tip that I want to share with you is only a very small one, but I believe it demonstrates really good manners. You should thank the interviewer for giving you the opportunity to be invited along for a second interview. So at the start of the interview, I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for being invited along for a second interview. And that, as I say, demonstrates really good manners. So the next second interview tip that I want to give you is to make sure you give detailed answers to the interview questions, and make sure you give as much evidence as possible that shows that you have the skills, the qualities and the experience that is a match for the job description. So give detailed answers to the questions, and really importantly, make sure you give as much evidence as possible that shows that you are the right person for the role. Now, during your second interview, try and build a rapport with the interviewer. All interviewers want to employ people who they are going to get on with from a professional perspective. I want to like you, because I want people within my organisation that I get on with, and also who are going to get on with other people who are already working within the company. So try and build a rapport with the interviewer. Now, if the interviewer says to you, I would like to now show you around the organisation, get to meet some of the people who are working in the team, this is a really good sign. But when you are walking around the company, if they do show you around, make sure you smile, be positive, ask questions. And whenever you see other people within the team, say hello to them and introduce yourself to them. So try and build a rapport with the interviewer, and also, if you get shown around the company, show that you are enthusiastic, ask questions and introduce yourself to the people who work there. So I hope all of that information has made a big difference to your preparation for your second interview. Just before you go, a couple of things. Make sure that you pay as much attention to your preparation for the second interview as you did for the first one. As I said at the start, it's really, really important that you treat this as seriously as you did for the first interview. I see people come along to second interviews and they fail because they think it's a foregone conclusion. It's not. So make sure you put in loads of effort to your preparation. Make sure you prepare for those questions that I gave you earlier on. And don't forget, in the top corner of the screen, the top right hand corner of this video, you can click a link that will take you through to a page on my website where you can download the questions and example answers that will help you to pass your interview. So that all that's left for me to say is I genuinely hope you are successful at your second interview. Let me know your experiences within the comments section below the video, and I wish you all the best.